The alien fleet had seen many ships in their lifetime. They had fought across dying stars, burned worlds to ash, and crushed countless enemies beneath their technology. But when the strange vessel appeared out of the void, their voices fell silent. It was massive, dark as the emptiness around it, but there was something unnatural about the way it moved. It did not glide like their own sleek cruisers. It cut through space like a predator, a beast with iron skin and hidden claws. Captain Yuln of the Tsar Dominion narrowed his eyes. His kind had ruled dozens of sectors, their warships unmatched. He had studied every known design, every battle tactic across the galaxy. But the vessel before him did not match anything in the records. "Identify it," he ordered, his voice sharp. The scanners hummed. Numbers and symbols filled the screens, but none of it made sense. The ship's armor was thicker than it should be. Its energy readings spiked and dipped in strange patterns, as if the vessel was alive. "Unknown," replied the sensor officer, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Its technology does not match any catalogued empire. It should not exist." For a long moment, the bridge crew only stared. Even the background hum of machinery seemed quieter, as if space itself waited to see what would happen. And then the ship turned. It did not broadcast a signal. It did not warn. It simply shifted, and when its shadow fell across their fleet, every warrior on board felt something alien in their bones. Fear. The Tsar Dominion did not fear easily. They had enslaved species stronger than themselves. They had burned cities with orbital fire. Yet something about this ship, the sharp edges of its hull, the scars across its armor, the silence of its guns, made them feel like prey. "Captain," whispered the sensor officer, "this ship, it is not one of ours. It is not any of theirs either. But it has markings, strange symbols across the hull. Look." The screen zoomed in. The crew leaned forward. Strange white letters were painted across the warship's black armor. None of them could read the language, but the lines were bold, proud, carved in defiance of the stars. Captain Yuln frowned. "Translate." The ship's database struggled. For long moments, the system spun, trying to match the alien symbols. Finally, the result flickered on the display. "Earth." A whisper ran through the crew. They had heard that word before, long ago. It belonged to a rumor, a ghost story told in quiet places across the galaxy. A story about a lost world, hidden at the edge of nowhere. A place where a violent species had risen and vanished, leaving nothing behind. "Earth is a myth," one of the bridge officers hissed. "A death world with no survivors." But as they stared at the warship before them, none dared to repeat it. The ship was old, but not weak. Its hull bore the marks of battles that should have killed it. Its cannons were silent, but each one was large enough to split a cruiser in half. And its engines burned with a steady fire that spoke of endless patience, endless will. "Captain," another officer whispered, "what do we do?" Yuln did not answer. His eyes were locked on the strange vessel. Something told him that firing upon it would be the gravest mistake of his life. And yet, retreating would mean weakness. The Tsar Dominion did not retreat. The warship continued forward, slow and unstoppable, like a predator that did not need to run. Then the lights dimmed. The ship was scanning them. The alien crew froze. No signal, no communication, just a silent search, stripping their fleet bare with invisible eyes. Every weapon, every weakness, every secret exposed in seconds. Yuln's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. This ship, who commands it? For the first time in many cycles, he felt his throat dry. A ship this old, from a world thought dead, should not be here. And yet it was. The warship finished its scan. Slowly, with deliberate purpose, it opened a single communication channel. The bridge screen flickered to life. The crew held their breath. A face appeared. It was not Tsar. It was not any species they knew. It was something harsher, stranger, its skin pale, its eyes sharp, filled with cold intelligence. It was a human. The crew had no words. Their bodies went rigid. The human leaned forward, shadows casting across his face. His lips moved, and though the translator strained to catch the meaning, the words came through clear, heavy, and final. You should not be here. The channel cut. For a long moment, the bridge was silent. The alien crew felt as if the void itself had closed around them. And in that silence, one truth echoed in every mind. They were not the hunters anymore. The Tsar Dominion fleet did not move. Dozens of their ships floated in silence, their weapons charged but useless, their crews paralyzed by the single word echoing in their minds, human. Captain Yuln tried to steady himself. His claws tapped against the armrest, a nervous rhythm he hated. He could not show fear. His crew was watching. His empire demanded strength. Maintain position, he ordered, though his voice cracked slightly. The human warship remained ahead of them, silent, steady, patient. It did not fire. It did not retreat. It only watched. And somehow, that was worse than an attack. Captain, said the sensor officer, his mandibles trembling, this ship is impossible. Its design is centuries old. Yet its systems are fully active. Its engines are stronger than ours. Its weapons. I cannot even calculate their full yield. Then calculate faster, Yuln snapped, trying to hide the edge of panic in his tone. The officer looked at him, eyes wide. Captain, those cannons could destroy half our fleet in one salvo. The words spread through the crew like poison. Whispers filled the bridge. Fear was contagious, and Yuln felt it crawling into his bones. He had seen mighty foes before, empires with fleets larger than his own. But those enemies had rules. They followed the same paths of war, the same technologies, the same predictable strategies. This was different. The human ship did not belong here. It was an echo of something the galaxy had chosen to forget. A ghost with teeth. Yuln made a decision. Open a channel, he ordered. The crew hesitated. None wanted to be the one to speak to the thing waiting in the void. Now. Yuln barked. The screen flickered. Static hissed. Then the human's face returned. Cold eyes. Scarred features. A soldier's stare. This is Captain Yuln of the Tsar Dominion, he declared, forcing his voice to sound steady. Identify yourself. State your purpose. The human did not answer right away. His gaze scanned them as if weighing their worth. Then, slowly he spoke. This vessel is the UNS Nemesis. The translator strained, but the meaning was clear enough. UNS. Nemesis. Words of a dead world, yet carried across time like blades. We are not here for war, Yuln said carefully. But you are trespassing in Dominion space. Explain yourself. The human's lips curved, not into a smile, but something colder, sharper. Dominion space? Interesting. The stars have new masters. His voice was steady, calm. But behind it, there was something else. Something ancient. A predator that had seen too much. Yuln tried again. Your species is gone. Extinct. A myth. How is it that you stand before us? The human leaned closer. His eyes narrowed. You think extinction makes us weak? The words hit like a blade. The crew stiffened, their throats dry. Yuln swallowed. What do you want? The human's gaze turned away, as if searching the void. Then he spoke, voice low but sharp as steel. We want what we always wanted. To survive. To fight. To remind the galaxy that humans are not finished. Silence followed. The bridge crew exchanged glances, unable to process what they were hearing. Finally, Yuln gathered his courage. If you intend to fight the Dominion, then know this, you will fail. We rule this sector. Our fleets number in the thousands. One ship cannot stand against us. The human's face darkened. For a long moment, no words came. Only that cold stare, heavy with the weight of countless battles. Then, softly, he said, one ship is enough. The channel cut. The bridge erupted in panic. Voices shouted, orders overlapped, fear rising like a storm. Yuln slammed his claws against the console. Silence. The crew froze, but their eyes betrayed them. They had seen the look in the human's eyes. They had felt the weight of his words. Alarms flared. The sensor officer shouted, "Captain! The Nemesis is powering weapons." Yuln's breath caught. He had to decide now. Fight or flee. To flee meant shame, weakness, dishonor. But to fight meant death. "Raise shields," he ordered. "All ships prepare to fire on my command." The fleet responded, though the fear in their movements was obvious. Weapons charged. Shields flared. Engines roared to life. But before Yuln could give the order, the Nemesis moved. It did not dart. It did not lunge. It advanced, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. Every second stretched like an eternity as the human warship's cannons glowed with deadly light. "Target locked," shouted the officer. Yuln's throat tightened. His claws trembled. He was Tsar Dominion. He did not yield. He did not flee. But for the first time in his life, he wanted to run. And then, light erupted. The Nemesis fired a single blast. The void split open. Energy tore through space, ripping apart shields, cracking armor, shattering one of Yuln's destroyers into dust in less than a heartbeat. The crew cried out. Yuln's eyes widened. One shot. One destroyer gone. The human warship's cannons glowed again. Yuln whispered the words he had never thought he would say. Retreat. The order spread through the fleet. Engines flared. Ships turned, breaking formation, scattering like prey before a hunter. On the bridge, Yuln sat frozen, his mind torn between fear and rage. His empire would not forgive retreat. But survival came first. Survival always came first. As his ship pulled back, Yuln dared one last glance at the Nemesis. It did not chase. It did not need to. It simply watched them flee, its guns glowing with silent promise. And in that moment, Yuln understood the truth. This was no ghost. This was no myth. Humanity had returned. And the galaxy was not ready. The Tsar Dominion fleet limped back through the stars, engines burning with shame. They had fled. The most feared power of this sector had turned its back and run. And the galaxy would soon hear of it. On the flagship's bridge, Captain Yuln sat in silence. His crew avoided his gaze, their eyes filled with fear of both the warship they had seen and the punishment waiting for them when they returned. A single ship, ancient, scarred, carrying the mark of a dead world, had done what no empire had ever achieved. It had broken them without effort. But Yuln's mind was not on shame. It was on the human's face. The cold stare. The promise in his voice. One ship is enough. It haunted him. The fleet reached Dominion space 2 days later. They docked at the massive fortress world of Zarkul, where the Dominion Council awaited their report. The council chamber was vast, lined with banners of conquest, each one a reminder of worlds broken beneath Dominion rule. Dozens of lords and admirals filled the hall, their eyes glowing with arrogance. When Yuln entered, silence fell. He bowed, his body stiff. "You return early," said Lord Kreln, the eldest of the council. His voice was sharp, suspicious. "Where is the enemy fleet you pursued?" Yuln's throat tightened. "There was no fleet," he said slowly. "There was a single ship." The chamber stirred with laughter and disdain. "A single ship?" One lord scoffed. "Do you expect us to believe you fled from one vessel?" Yuln's jaw clenched. He raised his head, his voice sharp. "It was no ordinary vessel. It bore the markings of Earth." The laughter stopped. I turned to him. The air thickened. Whispers filled the chamber like crawling insects. Lord Kreln's gaze hardened. "You dare speak of myths here?" "It is no myth," Yuln said firmly. "We saw it with our own eyes. A human warship. Old, yes, but alive. And commanded by one of them. The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices shouted, some in disbelief, others in fear. The word human carried weight, even here, among the most powerful. Because all of them knew the stories. Stories of the death world called Earth. A place where gravity crushed the weak, where storms could tear mountains apart, where beasts with claws and fangs hunted in the dark. And from that cursed world had risen a species that spread through the stars with fire and steel. But that was long ago. Humanity had vanished, wiped out in wars no one remembered clearly. Only whispers remained. Whispers and fear. Lord Kreln slammed his staff against the ground, silencing the chamber. His voice was cold. Even if your story is true, one ship cannot challenge the Dominion. Yuln's claws dug into his palms. He remembered the flash of light, the destroyer torn apart in an instant. He remembered his crew's screams. One ship is enough, he whispered, repeating the human's words. The council laughed again, though the sound was forced this time. But Kreln did not laugh. His eyes narrowed. Where is this warship now? Yuln shook his head. It did not follow. It allowed us to leave. As if it wanted us to spread the tale. The chamber grew quiet. The thought hung heavy in the air. The humans had always been cunning. If this warship existed, then it was not merely surviving. It was hunting. Kreln leaned forward. Very well. If this is true, then the Dominion will not hide. We will send more ships. We will crush this nemesis. But even as he spoke, unease flickered in his eyes. Far away, in the silence of unclaimed space, the nemesis drifted like a shadow. On its bridge, the human captain sat alone, his hands resting on worn metal controls. The ship was old, but alive. Its engines pulsed with power. Its weapons waited like sleeping beasts. The captain stared at the stars, his expression unreadable. He had seen the Tsar fleet scatter before him. Weak. Predictable. Arrogant. They were not the first empire to believe themselves untouchable. And they would not be the last. He whispered into the silence, his voice low, his words meant only for the ghosts that lingered in his mind. For too long, they have forgotten us. For too long, they have mocked the name of Earth. That ends now. He reached for a console. The ship systems responded with a low hum. From the shadows of deep storage, other signals stirred. Beacons hidden for centuries awoke. Coordinates transmitted. Across distant corners of the galaxy, silent machines blinked to life, sending calls into the void. The captain's eyes glowed with grim purpose. We were never gone. We were only waiting. The nemesis shifted course, engines flaring, carving a path deeper into Dominion space. It was not running. It was hunting. Back on Zarkul, Yuln left the council chamber with his thoughts heavy. The lords could laugh, but he knew the truth. He had seen death carried in metal. He had looked into the eyes of a species that should not exist. And deep inside, he feared something worse. If there was one ship, there might be more. The Dominion was strong. But strength meant nothing if you fought an enemy that had already mastered survival in hell. Yuln stopped, his claws trembling as a thought struck him. The human had let them live. Why? Not mercy. Not weakness. Something else. A message. The Dominion had been spared, for now, only so that fear could spread. And fear was already spreading fast. The Tsar Dominion prepared for war. Within days of Captain Yuln's report, the council ordered a fleet twice the size of his to hunt down the human warship. It was not just about defense. It was about pride. The Dominion could not allow the galaxy to believe they had fled from one ship. But Yuln knew the truth. He had seen the nemesis in motion, and deep inside, he feared this new fleet would suffer the same fate, or worse. The council did not listen. They wanted blood. They wanted a victory to erase the shame. So the fleet departed. 50 warships strong. Cruisers, destroyers, and dreadnoughts, their weapons charged, their banners bright. They marched into the void like hunters going after prey. But prey did not always run. The Nemesis waited. On the bridge, the human captain studied the reports flowing in. His ship sensors had detected the Dominion's movements long before they entered the sector. He knew their numbers. He knew their formation. He knew their weaknesses. The Dominion believed strength was measured by size and firepower. Humans had always known better. One ship, if used correctly, could be more dangerous than an entire fleet. The captain's hand moved over the console, activating systems that had not been used for centuries. The Nemesis was old, but its creators had been ruthless engineers. It carried weapons the galaxy had long forgotten. Mines drifted from its hold, vanishing into the void like seeds of death. Electronic shadows spread, feeding false signals into the Dominion sensors. And deep within its core, the ship's rail cannons hummed with lethal anticipation. The captain leaned back in his chair, his eyes steady. Let them come. The Dominion fleet arrived at the edge of the sector. Admiral Trask, chosen by the Council for his brutality, stood tall on the bridge of the dreadnought Iron Fong. He sneered at the reports. 1 ship against 50, he laughed. The Council fears shadows. This will be nothing more than target practice. His crew laughed with him, but there was unease in their eyes. Stories of the Nemesis had spread quickly. Crews whispered of a ghost ship from a death world, commanded by a human who could destroy fleets with a glance. Trask dismissed their fear. Humans are extinct. This is nothing but an old relic. We will crush it, and the galaxy will remember the Dominion's strength. The fleet pressed forward. At first, nothing moved. Only stars and silence. Then the scanners lit up. "Admiral!" shouted the officer. "Multiple contacts, dozens of ships, no, hundreds." The display filled with phantom signatures. The Dominion fleet shuddered. Enemy ships surrounded them on every side. Trask snarled. "It's a trick. Ignore it. Advance." But before the words could settle, the first mine detonated. A destroyer vanished in a flash of fire. Then another. And another. Invisible fields of explosives tore through their formation, scattering the fleet into chaos. "Shields failing," shouted voices across the bridge. Trask's jaws clenched. "Find the real ship. Find it." The scanners screamed with false signals. The Nemesis was everywhere and nowhere. Then it struck. From the shadows of the void, a single rail cannon fired. The shot tore through the Iron Fong's flank, ripping armor like paper. The dreadnought shook, alarms howling. Trask staggered but roared above the noise. "Return fire. All ships, fire on my mark." Cannons lit the stars. Beams of energy and fire streaked through the darkness, ripping apart false signals, tearing through empty space. But the Nemesis danced between them, silent and merciless. Every shot it fired counted. A cruiser split in half. A destroyer gutted from bow to stern. Another minefield detonated, shredding 2 more ships. The fleet was crumbling. On the Nemesis, the captain remained calm. His crew, few in number, shadows of what had once been thousands, worked with silent precision. They had trained for this moment. Humanity had always been outnumbered, outgunned, outsized. Survival was their nature. And survival had taught them how to kill giants with stones. "Admiral's ship is crippled," a crewman reported. The captain's eyes hardened. "Finish it." The rail cannon fired again. This time, the shot pierced the Iron Fong's core. The dreadnought exploded in a blinding wave, fragments scattering across the void. The Dominion fleet broke. Ships turned, fleeing in every direction, their formation shattered, their pride burning. But the Nemesis did not chase them all. It targeted the ones that ran slowest, tearing them apart one by one. The message was clear: running would not save you. Only a handful of ships escaped into hyperspace. The battlefield was silent again. Floating wreckage glimmered like dying stars. The Nemesis remained untouched. Back on Zarkul, the council received the report. 50 ships sent. Less than 10 returned. Their greatest admiral dead. And 1 human warship still at large. The council chamber shook with rage and fear. Some demanded more fleets. Others demanded silence, to hide the truth. But all of them knew the same thing: the Dominion had been humiliated. And worse, every empire across the stars would hear of it. The humans had returned, and their first move had already shattered the strongest power in the sector. Far away, the Nemesis drifted once more into darkness. On its bridge, the human captain sat in silence, his face lit by the glow of burning wreckage outside. He whispered to himself, a vow carried into the endless night. They will remember us. All of them. The ship's engines flared. The hunt was only beginning. The galaxy trembled. News of the Dominion's defeat spread faster than light. 50 warships destroyed by 1 vessel. An ancient human warship, scarred by time yet stronger than anything seen in centuries. Some dismissed it as rumor. Others swore it was truth. But all agreed on one thing: the balance of power had shifted. The Tsar Dominion tried to silence the tale, but whispers could not be stopped. Merchants, smugglers, even slaves carried the story across star lanes. The word human was once again spoken with fear. And every empire listened. On the Dominion capital, the council gathered in secret. The chamber was dim, shadows stretching across the tall pillars. Lord Kreln slammed his staff against the floor. This cannot stand. If the galaxy believes humans have returned, our enemies will rise against us. Another lord hissed. Our enemies already rise. The Keth clans refused tribute yesterday. The Varan Alliance has armed their fleets. They smell weakness. The chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded immediate war. Others begged for caution. None could agree. Finally, Kreln raised his hand. His voice was cold. The Dominion cannot fight rumors. We must find this nemesis and destroy it. Only then will the galaxy believe we still rule. But 50 ships failed, one lord whispered. Kreln's eyes narrowed. Then we send more. Far away, in a hidden sector of space, the nemesis drifted in silence. The human captain stood at the center of the bridge. His crew, scarred, hardened, few in number, watched him with quiet trust. They had survived countless battles together. They would follow him into hell again. A crewman broke the silence. Captain, transmissions spreading across 3 sectors. The story has reached them all. The captain nodded slowly. Good. Let them talk. Fear is a weapon. Another voice added, the Dominion prepares more fleets. The captain's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something sharper. Let them. His gaze turned toward the stars, and in his mind he saw Earth. Not as it was now, a silent grave, but as it once had been. A world of fire, storms, oceans, and wars. A world that forged predators strong enough to survive anywhere. The galaxy had forgotten that truth. But the nemesis would remind them. Meanwhile, in the Keth clan's stronghold, a council of warlords gathered. They were a proud species, half beast and half warrior, their lives ruled by blood and conquest. The eldest warlord snarled, slamming a claw against the table. The Dominion bleeds. The humans strike them like prey. This is our chance. Others growled in agreement. But one warlord frowned. If the humans are truly back, should we not be cautious? The stories say they were monsters. They destroyed entire empires before vanishing. The chamber grew tense. The eldest warlord bared his fangs. Then let us see if the stories are true. If humans hunt the Dominion, let them. We will take what remains. And so the Keth clans prepared for war, not against the humans, but against the Dominion itself, unwittingly doing the Nemesis's work. Back on Zarkul, Captain Yuln sat in silence within his quarters. He had been spared by the human once, but he had not forgotten. The council mocked him, called him a coward. But he knew the truth. The human had not spared him by accident. It had been a message. And now that message spread like fire. Yuln whispered to himself, claws trembling. They do not understand. They think this is about one ship. They are wrong. If there is one, there may be more. He closed his eyes, haunted by the human's words. One ship is enough. If one was enough to break them, what would happen if humanity returned in force? The Dominion did not wait to find out. Another fleet assembled. 100 ships this time. Heavier guns. Newer shields. Elite crews. They would burn the human ghost ship from the stars. The fleet launched into the void, banners high, weapons bright. But as they disappeared into the darkness, fear traveled with them. Because every soldier aboard remembered the story. And every one of them asked the same question. What if the stories were true? The Nemesis detected them long before they entered the sector. The human captain studied the data, his face calm, his mind sharp. 100 ships. Twice as many as before. The Dominion had not learned. Prepare the traps, he ordered. The crew obeyed. Mines, decoys, electronic shadows spread once more. But this time, the captain had something else prepared. From the depths of the ship, hidden doors opened. Old drones, silent hunters built long ago, slid into the void. Small, fast, armed with weapons the galaxy had forgotten. The captain's eyes burned with quiet fire. Let them believe numbers will save them. The Dominion fleet entered the trap. At first, all was calm. Then the drones struck. Silent, swift, invisible in the void. Ships exploded before they even realized they were under attack. Panic spread like fire. Enemies everywhere, voices screamed. We cannot track them. The admiral roared orders, but it was useless. The drones cut through destroyers, crippled cruisers, shattered their perfect formation. And then, from the darkness, the Nemesis emerged. Its rail cannons fired. Its missiles screamed. Its guns tore through shields like they were nothing. One ship against 100, and the Dominion was losing. On the bridge of the Nemesis, the human captain stood unshaken. His voice was steady. Do not waste shots. Make them count. Remind them who we are. His crew obeyed, every strike precise, every move perfect. Within hours, half the Dominion fleet was gone. The rest scattered, running once more. The Nemesis did not chase. It let them flee, just as before. Because fear was the true weapon. The human captain watched the wreckage drift. His voice was low, carrying into the silence of the void. They will never understand. Not until it is too late. The engines flared, and the Nemesis vanished once more into the stars. The Dominion was crumbling. Twice they had sent fleets. Twice they had been broken. Now their enemies circled like predators around a wounded beast. The Keth clans raided their borders. The Varan alliance mobilized fleets. Even smaller empires, once too afraid to move, now bared their teeth. But worse than enemy fleets was the whisper carried through every star lane. The humans have returned. Merchants repeated it. Smugglers swore by it. Soldiers whispered it in barracks. Even slaves muttered it in chains, hope flickering in their eyes for the first time in centuries. The name of Earth had become fire again. On Zarkul, the Dominion Council sat in rage and fear. Their chamber once echoed with arrogance, but now it was filled with doubt. Lord Krelln's voice shook with fury. We cannot allow this. The galaxy believes one ship rules us. Another lord hissed back. It is not belief, it is truth. We have thrown fleets at it, and each one is ash. How do we fight an enemy that cannot be killed? The chamber fell silent. They had no answer. Finally, Krelln spoke, his tone grim. If fleets cannot win, then we must strike differently. We must find its base. Its hiding place. No ship can survive alone forever. The others nodded, desperate for hope. Spies were dispatched. Hunters were paid. Across the galaxy, the Dominion searched for the home of the Nemesis. But the Nemesis was not hiding. It was moving. The human captain knew the Dominion would search for him. He wanted them to. Fear was a weapon, but sometimes fear needed proof. Proof that humans were not only ghosts, but predators that could reach anywhere. On the bridge, the crew watched as the captain set a new course. Target? One asked. The captain's eyes burned cold. Their pride. Their fortress. Zarkal. The crew stiffened. To strike the Dominion's capital world was madness. Billions lived there. Defenses stretched across the skies. It was the heart of the most powerful empire in the sector. But the captain only whispered, "They think numbers will save them. They think walls can protect them. Let us remind them, there is no wall against us." The Nemesis crossed into Dominion territory like a shadow. It slipped past patrols. It shredded scouts. Every defense they had built was worthless against the human ship's silence and speed. Finally, Zarkal came into view. A world of black stone and burning skies, its orbit thick with stations, turrets, and fleets. The crew stared at it in awe. One whispered, "Captain, this is suicide." The captain shook his head. His voice was steady, sharp. "It is war." The ship's weapons primed. The void trembled. On Zarkal's surface, alarms screamed. Dominion leaders rushed to command stations, their eyes wide as scanners confirmed the impossible. "The human ship is here," an officer shouted. "It approaches the capital." Panic spread through the city. Civilian transports scrambled into the skies. Fleets lifted from docks. Every gun turned toward the black warship approaching like death itself. Lord Kreln stood at the fortress window, his claws trembling. "One ship dares this." But even as he spoke, deep inside, he feared the answer. The Nemesis attacked. Its first strike shattered an orbital defense station, tearing it apart in seconds. The second crippled a fleet dock, sending burning ships crashing into the skies below. The Dominion fought back with everything they had. Hundreds of cannons roared, beams of energy lashing through the void. Fleets closed in from every side. The void lit up with fire. But the Nemesis moved like a predator among sheep. Its guns spoke with deadly precision, tearing holes in fleets. Mines ripped through cruisers. Drones darted, cutting engines and cracking hulls. Every second, the Dominion lost more ships. On the ground, billions watched the sky burn. And in that fire, fear spread. The fear that even at the heart of their empire, they were not safe. On the bridge of the Nemesis, the crew fought with grim determination. "We cannot stay long," one shouted. The captain nodded. "We do not need to." His hands moved across the console, directing fire with cold precision. He was not here to conquer. Not yet. He was here to prove a point. And that point was burning across the skies of Zarkal. After hours of chaos, the Nemesis began to retreat. Dominion fleets chased, but too slowly, too clumsily. The human ship slipped back into the shadows, vanishing as suddenly as it had come. The capital world was left in ruins. Stations destroyed. Fleets shattered. Millions dead. But worse than destruction was the message. No fortress was safe. No empire was untouchable. The humans could strike anywhere. In the ruins of the council chamber, Lord Kreln stood trembling. The other lords shouted, argued, demanded vengeance. But deep in his heart, Kreln knew vengeance was impossible. The Dominion was no longer feared. The humans were. Far from the burning world, the Nemesis sailed through the silence of space. The crew was exhausted, their bodies heavy with strain. But their captain stood tall, his eyes locked on the stars. He whispered, his voice low and filled with steel. "They will not forget us now. Not ever again." The stars ahead seemed to burn brighter. The hunt was not finished. It had only just begun. The galaxy was no longer the same. Every empire, every species, Every warlord had seen the impossible. A single human warship had entered the Dominion's heart and left it burning. The story spread faster than light, repeated in whispers, in fear, in awe. Merchants swore they had seen the black ship's shadow. Soldiers swore their fleets had fled from it. Refugees carried tales of its fire to every corner of the stars. And everywhere, one name grew louder. Nemesis. The ship was no longer just a vessel. It was a symbol, a warning, a promise. But symbols do not end wars. The Dominion was desperate. Their fleets were broken, their capital wounded, but their pride was not dead. They gathered what remained of their strength, calling on allies, forcing vassals into the fight. A coalition unlike any before was formed. Hundreds of ships, dozens of species, one purpose: to kill the humans before the galaxy bent knee to them. The crew of the Nemesis knew this was coming. On the bridge, maps glowed with red warnings, fleets converging from every direction. One officer's voice shook. "Captain, there are too many, even for us." The captain stood silent for a long moment. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with fire. "They want the end," he said finally. "Then we will give it to them." The crew looked at him in shock. He continued, voice steady, strong. "This ship was not built to survive. It was built to remind the galaxy who we are. If this is where it ends, then it will end with them remembering humanity's name for eternity." The bridge fell silent. Then, one by one, the crew nodded. Fear gave way to resolve. If this was the last stand, then they would make it one the galaxy could never forget. The battlefield was chosen. A dead system, a star long gone cold, asteroids drifting like bones in the dark. Here the Nemesis waited, silent among the rocks. And then, they came. The Dominion fleet. The Coalition armada. Hundreds of ships, filling the void with their lights. The darkness of the dead star was drowned in fire. From a distance, the fleets looked unstoppable. Walls of steel and plasma. But, on the Nemesis, the humans prepared. The captain stood at the center of the bridge. His voice was steady, cold as iron. Fire. The void erupted. Mines hidden among the asteroids detonated, ripping holes in the front lines. Drones streaked forward, weaving between cruisers, tearing engines apart. The Nemesis fired broadside after broadside, its guns screaming in the dark. The coalition reeled, ships breaking, burning, falling. But their numbers were endless. For every ship destroyed, 10 more pushed forward. Beams cut across the void, hammering the human warship. Shields flared, metal screamed, alarms blared across the bridge. The crew fought like demons, every console alive with fire and warnings. Shields down to 20%. Port thrusters failing. Deck 5 is gone. The ship was dying. But it was killing with it. The captain's voice cut through the chaos. Focus on their flagships. Break their will. The Nemesis turned, its guns locking on the largest Dominion dreadnought. A storm of fire roared from the human ship, tearing into the behemoth. Shields collapsed. Armor cracked. And then the dreadnought exploded, a sun blooming in the dark. The coalition faltered. Fear spread through their ranks. Even dying, the humans struck like gods. But the end was close. Hull breaches tore open. Fires consumed decks. The crew fought on, hands burned, lungs filled with smoke, but still they stood. At the center of it all, the captain was calm. His hand rested on the last command key, the final weapon. He spoke softly, more to himself than anyone. "They thought we were gone. They thought humanity was dust. Let this be their reminder." The crew looked at him, and in their eyes there was no fear. Only pride. The captain pressed the key. The Nemesis roared one last time. A hidden core, deep inside its heart, ignited. Energy built, too much to contain, a storm locked in steel. The ship turned itself into a weapon. The explosion lit the dead system brighter than any star. Waves of fire tore through the coalition fleet, ripping apart ships by the dozens, shattering the Dominion's last hope of victory. And in that fire, the nemesis was gone. Silence returned to the void. Where the human ship had stood, nothing remained but wreckage, drifting embers, and the broken husks of enemy fleets. But the galaxy did not see wreckage. It saw legend. Weeks later, across the stars, stories spread faster than truth. Some said the humans had died. Some swore the ship had escaped into the dark before the blast. Others whispered that Earth had more ships waiting. But one thing was certain. The galaxy no longer feared the Dominion. It feared humanity. On a distant, hidden world, deep underground, a single console flickered. A signal pulsed, faint but steady. Earth was listening. And Earth was waiting.